I'll tell her to today. If you can send a message to Gerard direct.
I've sent Gerard a message, ma. I've sent Gerard a message.
Okay.
He's having a vaccination tomorrow.
Okay. I'll tell her.
Right.
I'll tell her to today. If you can send a message to Gerard direct.
I've sent Gerard a message, ma. I've sent Gerard.
Friends, I'm sorry. There was some technical issue. It is sorted out now. I think in YouTube people can listen. People can watch. People can see in the YouTube now. Okay, we will begin this condolence meeting. Yes, we'll begin this condolence meeting. The first slot is given to not many few Jesuits to express their solidarity messages. Let me have first Father Stanley D'Souza. You can unmute your mic and speak. Okay, Stanley D'Souza is the president of the Jesuit Conference. Those of you, can you please mute? Please mute yourself. Yeah. I request Father Stanley D'Souza, who is the head of the Jesuits in India, to share his message on this day. Stanley.
Dear family members and friends of Father Stan, we Jesuits of India are deeply saddened by the death of Father Stan Swamy. In his death, we have lost a courageous, committed, and compassionate elder brother who lived and worked for the mission of the Society of Jesus, reconciliation and justice. He championed the noble ideals of love and compassion, equality and justice, truth and peace, and sacrificed his life for them. He is an example for us Jesuits to emulate and to become effective Jesuits. Father Stan had deep love for Jesus and the poor. This made him see, judge, and act differently. He embraced a simple life and worked tirelessly for the rights of the poor Dalits and indigenous peoples. Right up to his last breath, imprisoned and deprived of basic human rights, he still continued to march in solidarity with the marginalized people of our times. Therefore, even as we mourn his undeserved, untimely, and unjust demise, we shall still celebrate his life wholly dedicated to the service of the last, the least, and the lost. It is true that Father Stan is no more, and we are deeply troubled at the death of Father Stan. However, a person like Father Stan cannot die. He will rise in the lives of people and in the struggles for justice and peace. I'm sure his death will awaken the conscience of people, energize many to take up the work among the unprivileged, and inspire many to pledge anew to hold aloft the perennial principles of reconciliation and justice. And we Jesuits will surely carry forward his legacy, the work among the poor and the marginalized. We thank all people of goodwill, the advocates, the doctors, and the human rights activists who stood by him and extended him all solidarity and support. May the soul of Father Stan Swamy rest in peace. Thank you.
Thank you, Stanley. Now may I invite Father Jerry Kutina. Father Jerry is the Jesuit Provincial of Jamshedpur, and Father Stan is a member of Jamshedpur Jesuit Province. He will be able to share with us his own life and mission in the province and elsewhere in the assistancy. Father Jerry, on behalf of the Jesuit Province of Jamshedpur, I invite you to share your message.
Dear friends, recall the poem of Stan Swamy. I quote, "But we will still sing in chorus. A caged bird can still sing. This was the swan song of Father Stan Swamy, a poem written from the prison. Indeed, these words ring true to his nature. A brilliant young mind, being groomed to be a teacher at one of the most renowned management institute of the country, turned instead into a social activist, a champion of the poor, the oppressed, and the voiceless. Instead of enjoying the privilege and glamour of an academician, he chose to live with the ordinary tribal people in Chaibasa, Jharkhand, and elsewhere in Jharkhand, and work for their rights. He chose to travel the road less traveled. Stan opted to spend his entire life for the tribals of Jharkhand, that is 5 decades. He worked among the Adivasis, Dalits, and the other marginalized communities so that the poor may have the fullness of life with dignity and honor. He was a Jesuit for 64 years and a priest for 51 years. He was a courageous man who dared to call a spade a spade. He knew no fear, and he was happy to take on any institution and any corporate if he felt that they were in the wrong. On behalf of the Jamshedpur Jesuits and our collaborators, I express my deepest condolences to the family members of Stan, the lawyers, his friends, well-wishers, and the Holy Family Hospital, and those who stood by Father Stan Swamy and prayed for him during this moment of trial and suffering. One of his main tasks was the implementation of the constitutional provisions for the tribals, the same constitution he was accused of subverting. Persisting with constitutional means, he fought for the rights of the tribals that made him an effective threat to those who kept on exploiting the tribals for long. Stan did not back off against a ruthless political or corporate force. Before his arrest in Ranchi, whenever I met him, he kept telling me the same. Jerry, if working for the poor tribals and the marginalized groups is a crime and sedition, I'm ready to face any consequences. I'm ready to go to the prison. My bag is ready. Unquote. That was his commitment. Give and not to count the cost. Labor and not to seek for reward. I'm sure his spirit will live on as a living memory for justice and reconciliation. The Society of Jesus at this moment recommits itself to take forward the legacy of Father Stan in his mission of justice and reconciliation. Passing away of Father Stan has created a huge void, but I'm sure that he has inspired many a Jesuit and others to take his legacy forward. May his soul rest in peace. Unmute.
Sorry. Thank you, Father Jerry. Friends, please hold on. I will be admitting those speakers who are going to come. Henry Tiffan will be hosting the next sessions. He will be co-host. He will be organizing the speakers. The same way next Cedric will come. They will be admitting persons also. Just remember that we'll be going ahead like that. Now may I invite Father Arun D'Souza, the Jesuit Provincial of Bombay Province. You know, we belong to the Universal Society. We may join a province, but we belong to the entire society. We can be sent anywhere to work. When Stan was taken to Mumbai Taloja prison, we have entrusted the complete responsibility with Mumbai Jesuit province. Many of you would know Father Fraser, who was his guardian, who was with here coordinating all the efforts. Even now, he is the one who is coordinating. His body is taken for a postmortem. Then the body will be returned to St. Peter's. And I just also want to announce, at the end also I will announce, tomorrow at 12 o'clock, we will have the Eucharistic celebration in St. Peter's. That will be also live telecast. You are welcome to join. The Mumbai province played a very, very key role, particularly in the last moments of his life. Representing the Mumbai province, I invite Arun D'Souza to share his message today.
At this moment, my heart goes out to the family of Stan, to all his activist friends from Bagaicha, to his province men, and all those who knew him so intimately. And at one level, we mourn the death of Father Stan as a human being. But at another end, I think we need to celebrate his life. Thanks to the government, he was put in Taloja jail, and we of Bombay province were privileged to have him among us and to consider him as one of us in Bombay. He inspired our youngsters, gave new life to our seniors, and became an inspiration to all of us. But I think more than that, he actually, thanks to the government again, became an inspiration to the worldwide community of activists and well-wishers. If he had not been put in prison, he would have remained an unknown person in Bagaicha, in working among the Adivasis. Thanks to the powers that be, his message became known worldwide. His spirit became an inspiration to so many of us. And I say, like Campions brag, they may have got rid of one Stan, but all of us, committed activists, Jesuits, friends, parishioners in Bombay, parishioners and well-wishers across the globe, will stand up and become other Stans where we are, fighting for justice, fighting to make a better world. So if the powers that be think they have won, be warned. God is raising an army that is invincible, that like Stan will fight for justice, reconciliation, and peace. Thank you, Stan. Enjoy yourself in heaven and pray for each one of us. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you so much. Now, may I invite Father Xavier Jairaj, who is the Secretary for Social Apostolate and Ecology. He resides in Rome. I invite him to share his message on behalf of the Secretariat and the Jesuits from the Roman Curia and the Jesuits all over outside the country.
Thank you. On behalf of Father General, also all the Jesuits in the Curia and all over the world, all the conferences, the presidents of Jesuit conferences, the provincials, and also many others who have been part of the solidarity group who came together to speak the voice of justice on behalf of Stan, and also the other 15 people who have been imprisoned in the same case like Father Stan. We are deeply pained, anguished, and in sorrow at the departure of our brother, Stan Swamy. We join in mourning, but at the same time, we are deeply grateful for the life that he has lived, life of deep commitment for the poor, the marginalized, particularly the Adivasis. He was an inspiration, not only for the Jesuits and others in India, but because he was arrested and in the prison, the whole world came to know about it. He became an inspiration, a hope to the voiceless, the people who are being denied of their rights. He lived his commitment of option for the poor, not in words, but with his life. Today, as we mourn his departure, we gain strength from him that we are called and challenged, as was mentioned by Arun, that we have many more stands emerging, I'm sure, because he has given that hope. I join the many Jesuits as well as all the well-wishers of the whole world, the parliamentarians who spoke on behalf of Father Stan in their respective countries, who campaigned, advocated for Stan's release. Yet today we have lost him, but he continues to inspire us. He continues to give us that hope. A person who keeps the conscience of us all, particularly those who are denying the rights of the people.
Can you make it short? Can you make it short, please?
He's a prophet who spoke truth to power, because of which he became a suffering servant. Let us draw inspiration from him and live it in our life. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Xavier. We have many more people, as you can see in some of them on the screen. They are already have joined us. We are already a bit late. Jose Maria is from Portugal. Can you, Jose Maria, say a few words? Then I will be inviting Father Javamale Raja and Dennis Panaya. Please be ready. We will close the Jesuit circle with that. Jose Maria from Portugal.
Thank you very much. I just want to express my solidarity with all the Jesuits in India, with all Father Stan's friends and family, and just to say that he's for us today in the presence of God, a light to be committed with the human rights and not to allow that all the powers that don't want the poor to be served, to be also attent and to denounce all the injustice committed with our faith. Thank you very much, Father Stan. We trust in your prayer with God to help us in our mission.
Thank you, Jose Maria. Now, may I invite Father Dennis Ponaya. He is the Jesuit Provincial of Madurai Province. This is the area from which Stan is coming, near Trichy. Dennis Ponaya.
Thank you, Joe, for this opportunity. Good evening to all of you. Dear friends, I feel that Father Stan's death is a huge loss for all of us, an irreparable loss. Definitely, he will live in our memory forever, and his rich legacy will help perpetuate his memory. Father Stan was a great source of inspiration, not only for a few thousands, for the entire humankind. He fought literally for human rights, for the restoration of human dignity, till his last breath, we know. Stan, by his death, has been again born. He has been reborn in the hearts of millions of people who strive towards the restoration of human rights, human dignity, and value of compassion, love, peace, justice, solidarity, and reconciliation. Father Stan has left behind us a rich legacy that has the potential to propel us to deeper commitment to the cause of the poor, the cause of the Adivasis particularly, and Dalits. In the name of the Jesuit Madurai Province, let me express my heartfelt condolences to the members of Father Stan's family, his friends, the Jesuits, and all his close collaborators. May his noble soul rest in peace. Thank you. Unmute.
I now invite Father Javamale Raja, who is the Jesuit Provincial of newly erected Chennai Province.
Thank you, Joe. With a deep sense of gratitude, I would like to thank the Lord for giving a great man to the Society of Jesus. And today we have lost him. On behalf of the Jesuits of Chennai Province and our collaborators, co-workers, partners, I would like to express my deepest condolences to his family members, to dear and near ones of Father Stan. Father Stan is a great inspiring personality for all of us, particularly the people who are in the field working with the marginalized groups, the Dalits, tribals, migrants, is a great inspiration to all of us, and particularly to me also. He was a great inspirer. And I would like to thank him for his life and struggles as a model to all of us. He has given that model to be followed by all of us. For all the Jesuits and all the social activists and all those who are committed for human rights. And in a special way, I express my condolences to our Jesuits in Jamshedpur province and all of our friends very close to Father Stan. The deepest condolences on behalf of the Jesuit Chennai province. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Jamale. Now we will be moving into the second slot, which will be moderated, coordinated by Henry Tiffin. We have two slots, one on IC Enram and many other eminent persons here. He will be coordinating justice to talk. We have the justice also here. Then we will have the civil society segment also. So these two segments will be coordinated by Henry Tiffin and later by Cedric Prakash. Please maintain the timing and invite the participants and moderate the session. Before Henry could begin, we will have a small hymn where Stan was saying that I fight this cause and I'm not going to give up. That's the meaning of the hymn that will be played out. And I'm ready to pay the price.
I'm not a silent spectator, but I'm part of it, part of the game, and ready to pay the price, whatever be it.
सर उठा करके इस देश के हर दिन हम उठेंगे, आजादी गाएंगे, नफरत को प्रेम से जीतेंगे। अंधेरी रातों को हम रोशन बनाएंगे, इस भारत को फिर से हम जोड़ेंगे। हम होंगे कामयाब, हम होंगे कामयाब, हम होंगे कामयाब एक दिन। मन में है विश्वास, हाँ पूरा है विश्वास, हम होंगे कामयाब, हम होंगे कामयाब, हम होंगे कामयाब, हम होंगे कामयाब एक दिन। मन में है विश्वास, हाँ पूरा है विश्वास, हम होंगे कामयाब।
Thank you so much. I think already people are waiting. Justice Madan Lokur is here. May I request now Henry Chiffa.
Can I? Joe, can I? Joe?
Henry,
I
he
have-
already asked you to take over.
I will start. Good evening, friends. Let me pay my own personal condolences to somebody whom I considered a mentor. It is extremely difficult this evening to speak, and therefore I will only play the role of inviting people whom we had on all our behalf invited to pay their homage to Stan. May I therefore, first of all, invite Justice Madan Lokur, who is already in, a former judge of the Supreme Court, but someone who reminds all of us, lawyers, non-lawyers, as well as judges in different courts, the need for us to live by the morals of our Constitution. Somebody who has continuously and with great difficulty continued to be the conscience keeper of the Constitution in this country through his writings and his utterances. Justice Madan Lokur, over to you.
Yeah, thank you, Henry. We are meeting at a very tragic moment and a tragic day in the lives of so many of us. The passing away of Father Stan Swamy is a great tragedy, and it has impacted, I think, many people. I did not know Father Stan Swamy personally, but I had an interest in his case from the time he was arrested in October last year. And I have been following the orders that have been passed by the courts from time to time. And I must say that I have been extremely disappointed at the manner in which the courts, the prosecution, and all those concerned with his detention have been reacting. Starting from the time when he wanted a straw or a sipper, and he had to go to court for that. And what does the court say? The court gives the prosecution 20 days time to file a reply. I mean, this is really inhuman. I have been watching now for the last 2 years the pulverization of human rights, starting from the time when the women in Shaheen Bagh and in many other places had a sit-in. and the manner in which they were treated, the excuse that was taken of the COVID to break the unity that they had displayed, the views that they had expressed, how their human rights were trampled upon. It's just been a downhill slide since then, and it has culminated in today's tragic death. All that is required, all that is required is a little bit of humanity, a little bit of compassion, a little bit of understanding, and things will be all right. But unfortunately, for some reason, the powers that be are just not thinking about it. All of us are Indian citizens, all of us love our country. We have different ways of expressing our love for the country. But just because somebody expresses it in a manner which is different from the way somebody in power wants it to be expressed, it doesn't mean that the person is a terrorist. It's really unfortunate that our human rights are being trampled in this manner. And well, I hope Father Stan Swamy in heaven will be able to convince God that it's time for him to intervene and do something about it. I pray that Father Stan Swamy's soul rests in peace.
Thank you, Justice Lokur. Very moving words. And finally, you calling upon the Almighty to work through Stan to ensure change that we all are working towards. But we will not lose hope. He has gone. I had an occasion to speak to him on the 28th. And he told me, I am a child. They are teaching me to walk. And I will get bail on the 3rd of July. Instead, he went into a coma on the 3rd of July. I want to recall Justice Madan Lokur that in the month of July, August, and this we can now say, since he's not with us, he told me, the moment the NIA arrests me, I am leaving behind a will, Henry. And the will reads that he will not take any food thereafter. I was shivering. Joe Xavier and myself did not know what to do with that will. On the 8th of October, when he was arrested, we were wondering what he will do. We had no news on the 9th. We had no news on the 10th. It is only on the 11th or 12th we came to know that his comrades in prison had advised him to start eating. That was Stan. Once he took a decision, it was very difficult for us to overcome. He has left, and as you said, he will be above, ensuring, Justice Lokur, that you and I and all those gathered here continue to play the same role that he wanted us to play. And I'm sure you will continue to do that. We gain a lot of strength from you and your presence here, Justice Lokur, this evening. Thank you very, very much. May I now invite one of our country's best journalists, somebody who has commented on a number of important issues taking place for decades together. Mr. N. Ram is with us. And I would invite Mr. N. Ram to offer his message to us this evening.
Thank you, Henry. I first want to convey my deep condolences to Dr. Stanislaus D'Souza, S.J., Jesuit Provincial of India, the Jesuits of India, and the Jesuits of Jamshedpur Jesuit province in particular, over the death of Father Stan Swamy. I have had a close association with Jesuits. I went to Loyola College a long time ago, and I remember with great affection the wonderful series of teachers and mentors who gave us values, not just me, but many members of my family as well. Father Lawrence Sundaram, Father Sequeira, Father George, Father Geruvier, many of those. I always admired them, the way they lived, the way they taught, and their commitment to the lives, the interests of the poorest or the poor, the marginalized, and so on. And over the years, this has become increasingly emphasized. And as the message from the Jesuit Provincial of India points out, this was a mission for Father Stan to work among the Adivasis, Dalits, and other marginalized communities, so that the poor may have life and life to the full. I'm quoting from this, with dignity and honor. I didn't know him personally, just as respected the preceding speaker, Justice Madan Lokur, he also said that. It was a very moving tribute, as well as reflection on what is going on. I think without going into details which many people are familiar with, I wish to call attention to the authoritarian trends that have gained ground over the last several years. And just as Lokur mentioned, the last 2 years, we have witnessed a number of injustices, atrocities, human rights violations, violations of the rule of law by an authoritarian dispensation, which is not just authoritarian, but is motivated by communalism, in particular communalism as a political mobilization strategy. Without understanding this, we cannot understand, we cannot comprehend, we cannot even get insights into what was visited on Father Stan and others like him. Let's not forget that Sudha Bharadwaj in Baikulla jail is also not in very good health. She's much younger than Father Stan, but she's been languishing for the last 2.5 years. And it's a very sad commentary on the state of the justice system in the country, in particular the courts, for not acting in time. Once in a while, we get good news. Courts, high courts in particular, deliver judgments that we welcome. But on the whole, we are very, very disappointed with the performance of the higher judiciary in the country, but not just the higher judiciary. Special court in this case. I also want to call attention to the way, is there a problem with the audio? Henry? I think if you ask, not just for me, everybody to mute.
Mr. Ram, we can hear you clearly.
Yeah, but just a suggestion.
Can we mute
Ask
all the
everybody
others?
to mute who's not speaking. Except
Vivek Sharma.
they can
Vivek
unmute.
Sharma's number is a telephone problem.
Okay. So the other issue that I want to call attention to is the way institutions are being manipulated, being subverted. Ijaz Ahmad called it a long march through institutions. That is happening. You can see whether it's the enforcers of law and order, the enforcement directorate, the income tax department, the CBI and so on, the police, including the Pune police in this case. They've all been pressured or manipulated or whatever the term is, to obey the diktats coming from above. Otherwise, you cannot make sense of what happened in these cases. And I think we have to show, bring more solidarity in the resistance to this authoritarian, these tendencies in our polity. Otherwise, Father Stan's magnificent commitment, struggles on behalf of the Adivasis, Dalits, and other marginalized communities, his very effective scholarship, which was behind a very important historic PIL, all this would go in vain. So I think we owe it to the memory of Father Stan and to all those who have been targeted by an authoritarian and communal regime or a dispensation or a formation to do better in bringing effective solidarity into the picture. And I hope that alongside the somewhat different movements by the Jesuit community, their own way of expressing a sense of pain, anguish, and hope. Alongside that, civil society, the media, political parties, individuals who believe in the values our Constitution has given us: justice, liberty, equality, fraternity. I think unless we do this, we are not going to go forward. So on this occasion, let me again reiterate that Father Stan lived a noble life. He was tremendously committed. He was courageous. He was stoic. And it is outrageous that even the National Human Rights Commission, which was approached by people I know, did not accede to their request to visit the prisons. The prison, in this case, Toloba prison, as well as Baikula, where Sudha Bharadwaj is languishing. What is the remit of the National Human Rights Commission if it is not to ensure minimum conditions for those who are ailing? Somebody who had Parkinson's disease, who had other geriatric ailments, who was exposed to COVID, he surely got it. They didn't even detect it in one of the hospitals he went to. COVID-related ailments. Let's just await the findings of the autopsy and so on. But this is unacceptable in 21st century India. And I just want to appeal to everyone, apart from expressing our condolences, apart from conveying our deep grief to the families, the friends and well-wishers of Father Stan, we owe it to him and his magnificent life and work to do better in the period ahead in upholding the values that he stood for. And I speak as somebody who's totally secular. I belong to no religion. I have no religion. So I just, as an Indian citizen and as a journalist, I want to place these thoughts before you. And thank you, Henry.
Thank you, Mr. Ingram, for those very, very powerful words. You have reminded all of us here of the shortcomings, including the judiciary. You have recalled that institutions that were created precisely to save such occasions have totally failed. And I can assure you, Mr. Ingram, what you said about the NHRC is 300% true. 2018, I am a complainant before the NHRC. When the police from Pune went to raid his premises, nothing happened in that complaint. On June 2019, on the 13th of June, I was before Justice Dattu. And these cannot remain as secrets. I just sat opposite him in a meeting that he had convened and reminded him that June 12th was the day when the police had once again, and this time it was the NIA had visited, the police had once again visited his premises. And I said, please intervene to see that nothing happens to this holy person who has lived all his life for tribals. And Justice Dattu assured me, 2020, on the 8th of October, when he was kidnapped from Bagecha and taken to the NIA office. The arrest was later there. The arrest was never in Bagecha. Once again, another complaint was sent. 1 month ago, a complaint was sent, Mr. Endram, before Mr. Arun Mishra took over as a chairperson, asking the NHRC to depute a member with doctors to go both Baikura and Taloja jail. Had they done it, perhaps we could have saved his life and the lives of many others who continue in Baikula and Taloja in very difficult circumstances. Thank you very much, Mr. Ram, for your very powerful reminding ourselves that these institutions have to be challenged by us from wherever we are, by using them, by monitoring them, and by exposing them. Thank you very much. Friends, I have on my list representatives from the frontline defenders, from the International Federation of Human Rights Organizations from Paris, and from the World Organization Against Torture, and the World Observatory Against Torture in Geneva. But before that, let us hear Mr. Mihir Desai, the senior advocate who went this afternoon at 2:30, being invited to argue for his bail. And you know what happened thereafter. Mihir is also the vice president of the People's Union for Civil Liberties. Over to you, Mihir. Mihir, you'll have to unmute yourself. Mihir, you have to unmute yourself. Mihir? Yeah.
Mihir, please unmute Mihir.
He can't hear, so you have to call him on his mobile or, yeah.
No, he can hear. He's doing it.
Yes, to unmute.
Host can unmute him also.
Just, okay.
Betrayed. What? Is Mihir ready?
Just a minute.
You'll have to call him on his mobile. Because
Okay. While we get Mihir ready, may I invite Mr. T.M. Krishna from Chennai, a vocalist, but now a vocalist for rights across the country, for the poorest of the poor, for those who are marginalized. Here is T.M. Krishna paying his respects. Krishna? Muting is becoming a problem. Krishna? Yes. We can't hear you.
Am I audible now?
Done.
Okay, that's good. Okay, thank you. I'd just like to first express my deep condolences to everybody who was a friend, everybody who knew Father Swamy. I didn't know him personally like Mr. Ram, but I think we've all followed his work. We've all been great admirers for what he has done. with such dignity, with non-violence being the bedrock of anything and everything he did and he said. Truly one of the most gentle, strong, and powerful people in this country, speaking for the most marginalized. Having said that, I just want to say that I was contacted sometime in May to see if some pressure could be put to make sure that Stan was even tested for COVID. And it was horrible to see that literally nobody was willing to do anything. That is the truth. Test him for COVID. He was already very, very sick. This is before he was taken to the hospital. This is the third week of May. I'm talking about mid-May. And there was no testing done. The conditions in the prison, everybody knew. But this entire sense of inertia to even make sure that a human being gets the basic necessities and is comfortable was not there. Everybody said very, very before he was taken. That we've reached a point where we're comfortable with that kind of feeling. The conditions of the prison, everybody knew. Entire sense of that we can be comfortable with feeling that way and not even disturbed is really bothers me very, very deeply, because this is not just about Stan. It's about all those people whose names we don't know. I mean, that's one thing I would like to call here. There are so many in similar conditions who have passed away before, and unfortunately will happen again. The question we have to ask ourselves is, what can we do? And sometimes there is this sense of helplessness, of nothing can be done, nothing is possible. But we have to find a way and energy, and there needs to be a collective social energy that we need to find from this moment. We can't let this moment pass. We have to find a collective energy through public action, through judicial action, in whatever way, because our entire system has failed. In fact, I will go further and say our entire system is vulgar. That's the word I will use. It's only a vulgar and vile nation that will not be shaken and stirred at this moment when an 84-year-old human being has actually been allowed to die. That's the best way to, most, I guess, gentle way to put it. So, and we are a country that allows for preventive detention. Let's not forget that fundamental thing. We are a country where we can have a law like UAPA. We have to talk about those things, that a law like UAPA, what was Porta before UAPA now, the fact that such things can function in this country, and they are always and constantly abused. And one law or the other is brought to do injustice constantly. And the fact is that has to change. And I think we have to find energy in some manner to push for that change. And we live under a regime that is only going to harden things. So, in this moment of great sadness and struggle, I hope that this is some kind of a galvanizing moment, because something has to be a galvanizing moment. The CAA protests were a galvanizing moment, but we also need many more galvanizing moments for public action. So I just feel personally horrible, because I did try to do a little bit in May and nothing could be done for providing Stan some basic things. But beyond that, I think we have to come together to multiple actions to make sure there are not many, many more stands, and that the people who are voicing and who are standing for the most marginalized, and the marginalized who are never heard, who are always pushed deep, deep into the forests, physically and metaphorically, need many stands. And this smoke screen of using terms like Maoists, Naxalites, urban Naxals are all methods by which you create this illusion, this delusion of evil being the center of anybody who fights for human rights. And that's exactly the operational system of the present regime. is to create hatred and to make sure that those who actually speak for the marginalized are portrayed as demons, both in the way they're treated by our state, by our laws, by our police, and in the way the propaganda machine works. So both these things have to be addressed, I think, as soon as possible. And I'd just like to say, again, a great moment of sadness. Also, I hope, a moment of coming together. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Krishna, for being with us and expressing that solidarity that is very, very special from you. May I now invite Nayanthara Saigal, who is with us, a journalist, a novelist, a member of a family which we are told we should forget existed in this country. Over to you, Nayanthara.
Can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, we can.
I can see Krishna on the stage.
Yeah, you just have to unpin me. You have to unpin me.
Okay.
Just one second, Nayanthara. I think they'll get you on.
Yeah.
Make it a gallery view. Okay, so just talking.
Hello?
Yes, ma'am.
Can you hear me?
We can hear you and we can see you.
Well, I speak as a writer who is in mourning for Father Stan Swamy, a man of God who taught us the true meaning of religion. What does religion mean? Love your neighbor. That's what he taught us. But let me be clear about one thing. Father Stan Swamy did not die. He was killed. And he was killed because he spent his life working for the human rights of the poor and the deprived, the Adivasis in particular, for their forest rights, for their land rights, and the basic rights that they needed simply to be able to live their lives. Let's remember that there was no such thing as human rights until the end of the Second World War. That was when Nazi atrocities were exposed to the world. And there is no such thing as human rights in India today. The jails are filled with the men and women who dare to fight for human rights. In 1948, when Mahatma Gandhi was killed, Prime Minister Nehru said, "The light has gone out of our lives and there is darkness everywhere." Today in India, there is darkness everywhere. We are living in an endless state of mourning, in an endless state of grief for the dead who have been deliberately killed. The killing of Father Stan Swamy means the end of civilization in India today. That is India today. Yet the spirit of Father Stan Swamy lives on, and the love and compassion that inspired him to spend his life in the service of others will inspire us to follow his example. Thank you.
Thank you, madam. Every word you said today will remain with us. You reminded all of us the bitter truth that the state has killed Stan. And that act of killing will not go unchallenged. You have said that killing is the end of civilization. Very powerful words, ma'am. It's going to take me time to allow it to seep through me. Thank you very much for those very, very powerful words of sharing. I'm sure it means a lot to his Jesuit companions, but more than that, to the thousands and thousands of companions Stan has across the country. Not only Adivasis, but including a number of Adivasis. Thank you very much, ma'am. May I now invite Mihir?
Yeah. Am I now audible? Am I
You
now
are
audible? Okay, thanks. Sorry about it.
You're not allowing me to.
Yeah. Go ahead.
To let the audience know.
Okay.
That you were his. And if I say it so, you will get angry with me. I don't want to get angry with you. You led the team of lawyers. And you successfully led the team of lawyers to ensure that we almost obtained something that would have been very beneficial to many others who continue to be incarcerated today. You said many things in court today. Thank you for what you have been made to all of us. Not only to Stan, not only to the Jesuits, but to the larger human rights community. Over to you, Mihir.
Indeed, just to say thank you and also to remember Advocate Sharif Sheikh, who was a Sessions Court lawyer, Advocate Kritika Agarwal, then Mihir Joshi, and more importantly, Advocate Susan, who formed the team, who led us throughout. Thank you so much.
True, very true. It's a very disheartening day for me, just as it is for all of you. Stan was, of course, I was his lawyer, and in that sense, if you look at it conventionally, he's my client, etc. But he was much more than that. And I knew Stan since more than 30 years. I visited Jharkhand 3-4 times, met him there, stayed with him. In fact, last time I visited Jharkhand was about 1.5 years back, just before his arrest, and I had the good fortune of staying at Bagaicha with him, sharing the same place. It is really amazing that 2 years back, that is 3 years back, I'm sorry, not 2 years back, 3 years back, 2018, they tried to implicate Stan in a completely false case, just as they have completely falsely implicated other 15 people. Tried to implicate Stan in a completely false case, but at that time, and they raided his house as they raided other people's house. But when we went to court, they said, no, he's not an accused. He's only a suspect. We are not going to arrest him right now. Okay. After that, after 1 year, another raid. They couldn't find anything. After that, another raid after 1 year. Still, they couldn't find anything. But then they were getting frustrated because NIA is supposed to find some things, correct? I mean, that's their job, to discover things from nowhere, etc. They were not able to find anything. So they decided finally, okay, whether we find something or not, let's put this person behind bars. At that time, he was 84 years old in October. And it's not a case of NIA making a mistake. It's not a case of a mistaken arrest. It's a case of deliberate, wrongful, malicious arrest of Father Stan Swamy, which is very obvious from the kind of evidence they have. And there was no need for arrest. I mean, let me assume that they wanted to interrogate him or something like that. They finished the interrogation. They arrest him. What do you arrest a person for? You arrest a person in order to take him into your custody and interrogate.
Make it short because
people. Yeah. So what do you do it for? To interrogate him. They didn't interrogate him at all. They just, arrested him and put him in the jail. No custody. This showed that it was completely a malicious arrest. And I think what we need to remember today is that, yes, we have lost him. In that sense, we have failed him. But we should not let his loss be a failure for the movement at large. We should ensure that his legacy lives on, and we should continue fighting with added vigor as time goes by, not only for his memory, but also for the other people who are similarly arrested. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mihir. Thank you very much. As you said, you were not only his lawyer, but a comrade to him for many years. Thank you for what all you have said. I'm sure the case on the 13th is not going to be easy for the state. May I now invite Gerald from the World Organization Against Torture and the Observatory on Human Rights Defenders to say a few words. And we will have to go a little fast now because there are a whole set of civil society representatives who are lined up for the next session. Gerard, over to you.
Thank you, Henry, and thank you for having me at your meeting. And I think it is a sad day to you today. I think it's a sad day to India today. But I think it's also a sad day to us in the global human rights village or movement. I've known Father Stan more through our friend Henry. And to me, he is the example of why we believe in human rights, why we believe that being a human rights offender is anybody who works to protect the rights, especially of the most vulnerable. And I think it's a very, very sad day to see that his voice that was so important has passed today. But I also can sense, and I also share with you, the rage that I feel when I listen to you about what has happened. I think it is on one side a moment also to pay tribute to him for what he has done, for what he stood up in all his life until the end, including for the Dalit cause and others. But it is such an unnecessary death. And I think that the state bears responsibility is pretty obvious on the face of the information we have. I think it makes you raging if you see that somebody in a democracy for defending rights can end up in jail, number one. I think it is raging to see the cruelty in some of the casework that I've seen, that you have to go to court to get the most basic needs. I think it is cruel to put somebody with this age into prison. It's unnecessary. It's deliberate punishment. It's deliberately inhuman, degrading treatment. And I think it's a reminder of the situation that many defenders find themselves now in India, being in jail, being at the mercy of support, while COVID is raging in society, but in particular also in the country's jails. I think it is a very strong case that really unites everything in being punitive. At the same time, he unites everything, I think, that we believe internationally makes us proud of being associated with Indian human rights defenders, working for the poor, for the marginal, being creative in the measures you take, being faithful to your ideas. I think he offers so much as an inspiration to us. And while I feel the rage and I want to seek accountability with you for this case, I also feel the inspiration he gave. And I hope that this day can be also a reminder to us that we can work all together to make sure that his ideals live on, but also that the other human rights offenders that are still in prison are finally released. It is impossible for me to believe that a democracy like India jails human rights offenders. It's impossible for me to believe that a national human rights institution and state human rights institution don't see it as their primary duty to secure the liberty of those that defend rights, even if they say something that the government doesn't like. This is their responsibility. This is why they are created. So I hope we can learn the lesson to some extent to address this inaction, that we can address the accountability issue, that we can address the issue of COVID in detention and the need to release people now, especially human rights defenders who shouldn't be in prison in the first place. And that we also take this case to really question some of the underlying laws like the Unlawful Activities Act. I join you today from Geneva. I join you with all the human rights organizations in our SOS Torture Network. And I share the grief with you, but I wish you the strength. I know how hard you have fought for his liberty, and I hope you continue to fight this fight. And I thank you all for your work.
Thank you, Gerard, for those very powerful words. They mean a lot to defenders across the country. But all of us need to know that the World Organization Against Torture, today represented by Gerard here as its General Secretary, the Frontline Defenders Executive Director who's going to come, and the International Federation of Human Rights, who's going to address later, are all organizations that have addressed the governance mechanisms within our country, raising very pertinent questions about UAPA, and in particular ensuring and calling for the repeal of the Unlawful Activities Act in this country. Thank you very much, Gerard. May I now call upon Andrews, the Executive Director of Frontline Defenders, to offer his message of condolence.
Thank you, Henry. And on behalf of Frontline Defenders, we also share our condolences, our solidarity, and our deep sadness about the loss of Father Stan, someone who was, as has been mentioned by many, an inspiration, somebody whose example brought many others to defending the human rights of the most marginalized, looking particularly at defending Indigenous rights, the rights of Dalit and other communities that have been further from the enjoyment of human rights, and the love that was shared by so many for Father Stan is in a way his legacy. It's his engagement, his commitment to peaceful advocacy, and the way that he embodied human rights in how he was living his life is something that we pay tribute to and take solace from as we think how to continue the struggle that he has brought us to, and to ensure that we continue to work for those who are still in prison, as Gerald was just reflecting on, and to make sure that our solidarity and support for all human rights defenders in India and globally remains as focused as possible. I don't want to speak too long. I think others who knew Father Stan have paid very eloquent tribute to him, but we wanted to share today our sadness and our solidarity and our commitment to continue in the struggle. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Andrew, for being with us. The same spirit of solidarity that you expressed, like Gerard, and we human rights defenders in this country feel strong with all of you, with us across the globe, because we belong to a larger family of defenders throughout the world. May I now call upon Alice Mugabe, who is the president of the FIDH, the International Federation of Human Rights Organizations from Paris. Alice, the floor is yours.
Thank you. Thank you very, very much, Henry. Thank you for inviting the International Federation for Human Rights, FIDH, to say a few words on this terribly sad and tragic day following the untimely death of Father Stan Swamy. This loss will be sorely felt, not just in India, but also around the world. I, for example, speak to you right now from Botswana in Southern Africa. We, the FIDH, through the Observatory for the Protection of Human Rights Defenders, have repeatedly, since November 2020, expressed serious concerns about the health condition of Father Stan Swamy, which we strongly suspected was likely to deteriorate as a result of him not receiving adequate medical care and treatment. In the midst of this COVID-19 pandemic, where prisoners in overcrowded jails are particularly vulnerable to contracting the virus, the continued detention of an 84-year-old individual suffering from Parkinson's disease was most clearly a grave violation of human rights. We also expressed our concern about his arbitrary detention and the judicial harassment he suffered, both of which were clearly aimed at punishing him for his activism on behalf of minorities and disadvantaged groups. The fact that he remained detained and that his bail requests were rejected multiple times is unacceptable. This fact raises serious questions about the independence of the Indian judiciary, for decades a source of inspiration for many Commonwealth countries, but which today appears to be less responsive to issues of justice than it is to political factors and to the government. This is a government which is seemingly intent on shutting down any sign of dissent or criticism of its policies, regardless of the reasons for such criticism. We pledge to honor the legacy of dear Father Stan by continuing with his struggle to fight for the rights of people everywhere and by seeking justice, including for his untimely and avoidable death. FIDH supports human rights defenders in India, including all of those who have been unjustly arrested and detained for doing nothing more than speaking out about human rights violations. FIDH calls for the release of human rights defenders in places of detention in India, as they are particularly vulnerable to contracting COVID-19. This will be a sign of respect for the survival of fellow human beings. We thank you, Father Stan, for your contribution to making this world a better place for us all, your legacy of living what you believed in your heart of hearts. We offer our most sincere condolences and offer solidarity to all of you. I thank you.
Thank you, Alice. Thank you for those words of assurance. And with this, we will close this section, which was to be on human rights defenders locally as well as globally. And I assure you that about exactly at 9 o'clock, we will have the UN Special Rapporteur on human rights defenders, Mary Lawler, with us exactly at 9 o'clock. She has assured us to be with us exactly at 9 o'clock. Over to you, Cedric.
Thank you, Henry. Thank you, Henry, for really moderating, bringing in lots of people across the globe, human rights defenders, lawyers, judges, academicians, thinkers, and so on board to pay the right tribute to Father Stan and promising to continue his legacy. That's the one vote that we are taking today. The next section is going to be, many of our friends are here from the civil society groups. So I'm requesting Cedric Prakash to invite one by one. Please make it brief because many would like to share their thoughts. Before we start, Cedric, we will have a song being played out now. We have been listening. Just let's hear this song, then we will move on with the civil society groups. After that, we will have few minutes for some of the media fraternity. Henry, I would like to be on board so that we can coordinate the media and the family people and some of the friends who are ready. We will be closing, as you rightly mentioned, with Mary Lawler, with the special rapporteur for human rights around 9:95. We'll be closing it. Yes, let's have the song now. I'm sorry we are not able to give opportunity for everybody. Please bear with us.
And we'll still sing in chorus, a caged bird still can sing. And we'll still sing of freedom, a caged bird still can sing. Yeah.
Sing the song, sing of freedom.
freedom. Sing it loud, all you people. It's time to speak against all evil. As we sang the song when we were free once. Dissenting voices are in silence now. Behind the bars you find them somehow. I'm a part of it and I be sharing this vow. To pay the price, yeah, I'm ready, Bella Ciao. Lot of issues unnoticed, there's a lot of stuff. Hands that work for the others are in handcuffs. Ain't no prison in this world so tall enough to stop our voices from reaching out. Repressed are our lives with the stolen slow down. Bodies in prison, our voices shut up. Silence today is real in this lockup. You'll still hear our voice in these words as we speak out.
And we'll still sing in chorus. A caged bird still can sing. And we'll still sing of freedom. A caged bird still can sing.
In jail, no bail, now the body's frail. It's a processional hope now since fail. The damage is done before I end my tale. I'm sure truth will prevail. Each time there's suffering of the innocents is a role so important of the citizens. Your dissenting voice won't make you criminals. Standing up for them has its own significance. Truth must be spoken, discard this faith. Justice and liberty, every doorstep we must take. Though the journey may be long, we'll walk for freedom's sake. And even though we are bent, we still won't break. Body's weak, but spirit tough like wall. If unable to run, we'll still walk, we'll crawl. We make sure we do rise each time we fall. The push to the ground, we'll still stand tall.
And we'll still sing in chorus. A caged bird still can sing. And we'll still sing of freedom. A caged bird still can sing. To silence now, we stand and sing. Don't push to the ground, we rise and sing. To silence now, we stand and sing. Don't push to the ground, we still rise up and sing.
Something on freedom. Stand loud on the people. It's time to speak against all evil. As we sang the song when we were free once. Dissenting voices are in silence now. Behind the bars you find them somehow. I'm a part of it and I be sharing this vow. Pay the price, yeah, I'm ready, Bella Ciao.
And we'll still sing in chorus. A caged bird still can sing. A caged bird still, a caged bird still.
Thank you so much. Just want to announce, as we continue tomorrow around 12 o'clock, there will be, as per the Catholic tradition, there will be a final farewell Eucharistic celebration. We call it Mass in St. Peter's Church, Bandra, for Father Stan, following COVID-19 SOPs. Later, we plan, because we have to follow the COVID protocol, his body will be cremated. Then we will be taking the ashes to Jharkhand, both in Bagaicha and in Jamshedpur, his province. There will be memorial services in the days to come. We'll be also making it as part of the campaign program, the memorial services. So just to remind you, 12 o'clock tomorrow, there'll be again a mass being telecast. It will be a simple religious ceremony, offering Stan to the Lord, the author of life, back. Then we will be proceeding with the cremation. Then later his ashes, the holy ashes, will be taken to Ranchi, Jharkhand, where we will have a memorial service. During those days also, we'd like to invite you for a deeper sharing of Stan's life. Today, we are doing it in a hurried manner. Thank you for joining us. Cedric, it's over to you for the next 30 to 40 minutes to coordinate the civil society groups, friends, lawyers who are there. Please proceed.
Yeah, thank you, Joe Xavier. Dear friends, companions, those who have stood in solidarity with our dear, beloved Father Stan Swamy. Nayantra Sagal has very beautifully quoted Pandit Jawaharlal Nehru when she told us when Mahatma Gandhi died, Nehru said, "The light has gone out of our lives and there is darkness everywhere." It's true. But Stan, I believe, and as many of you believe, will live on. His memory, his legacy will live in the hearts and lives and souls. And that is why we have had such beautiful testimonies today. Several from civil society are here, leaders, human rights activists, social activists, and so on. It's not possible to accommodate everybody, but thank you for the tributes which you'll have been posting on the chat box. Without further ado, and without too much of introduction for each one, requesting each one to be speaking only about two minutes, I would first like to invite Tista Setalvad. She has to be on another television program on Father Stan Swamy. Tista has known Father Stan Swamy for many years, has written a lot about him, and she's currently the secretary of the Citizens for Justice and Peace and doing many other things in the field of human rights in India. Over to you, Tista.
Father Stan Swamy was a priest who leapt out of the walls of his church and made the people his religion. That is how my friend Xavier Dias and I used to talk about him when we met him in Bagaicha, Ranchi on so many occasions. Father Stan Swamy's articles would pop into my inbox and he would demand that I immediately edit them for publication on Sabra. Father Stan Swamy stood not just for himself, but he stood for the 4,000 incarcerated Adivasis in Jharkhand, on behalf of whom he filed a PIL in the Jharkhand High Court in 2017. Friends, much has been said about the campaigns we need to lead now that we have lost Father Swamy in this tragic way. It is an institutional murder, NIA, the jail authorities. I won't repeat that, but I will say that we owe it to Father Stan and the incarcerated 4,000 Adivasis of Jharkhand that we lead vibrant campaigns for monitoring of prison and health conditions by autonomous bodies, by insist that the gaze of the judiciary is more deep and more consistent, and we ask for a repeal of the UAPA, because I think such laws that are unjust have no place on our statute books. I'd also like to say that July 3rd is when he went onto a ventilator. Before that, he was articulate, pleading, frail yet strong, committed to all the other prisoners he was leaving behind. He was worried about the others incarcerated, not just in the Bhima Koregaon case, but others incarcerated in the prison unjustly. I'd like to also spare a moment for the other incarcerated in the Bhima Koregaon case and others who are wrongly held for years on end in our prisons. I think our constitutional courts need to have more regular monitoring and need to look at the fact that legal aid is provided in a more timely manner. Friends, Father Stan Swamy has left us. Yes, he has left us. His writings and his inspirations stay on. His work on Adivasis in Jharkhand stay on. And we need to rededicate ourselves to this struggle for this people's priest who leapt beyond the boundaries of his church to live and eventually die in custody. It was a death in custody, friends, though he was in the Holy Family Hospital where he was looked after so well. And we need to demand that there will be a judicial inquiry into this institutional murder of Father Stan Swamy. On behalf of all the communities that my organization represents, from Assam to Sonbhadra to religious minorities, I would just like to offer a very, very humble tribute. Thank you so much, Jesuits of Mumbai, for doing this so spontaneously and so quickly. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Tista, for that very insightful sharing on Father Stan. I would now like to invite Lotika from INSAF to be sharing her views on Father Stan Swamy. She's a member of INSAF India. And kindly unmute yourself.
Thank you, Father Cedric. My colleague Jyotsna will speak a message and I will hand over to her.
I'm speaking. I'm just going to read our message from the International Solidarity for Academic Freedom in India. So yesterday in INSAF, we had actually planned to hold a 24-hour international vigil for Father Stan Swamy, but time ran out. In his last hearing on May 21st, where his plea for bail on medical grounds was rejected, Father Stan had told the court, "I will probably die here very shortly if things go on as it is. It is a very difficult moment for me. Whatever happens to me, I would like to be with my own. Father Stan's own are spread all over the world. He is known for his lifelong fight for the Adivasis in India. We had wanted to stay up with him as he fought for his life. But here we are in a memorial, mourning what can only be described as state murder. When arrested 8 months ago, Father Stan had said, "What is happening to me is not something unique. It is a broader process that is taking place all over the country. We're all aware how prominent intellectuals, lawyers, writers, poets, activists, student leaders, they're all put in jail because they have expressed their dissent or raised questions about the ruling powers in India. In a way, I'm happy to be part of this process. I am not a silent spectator, but part of the game and ready to pay the price, whatever it is. The Modi government made him pay the ultimate price, his life. If this does not shake the world's conscience, what will? Rest in power, Father Stan."
Thank you, Jyotsna, for our statement. Cedric, we also have 3 statements from international figures that we will just share with you.
Okay, please do, Latika.
Nipa, please share them.
We have a we have a statement from Rowan, former Archbishop of Canterbury, Rowan Williams. He writes, "A brave and truthful witness whose life has in effect been taken by the agents of the state. Be sure of my prayers and thoughts in solidarity with all meeting today and with all who continue Father Stan's work for justice and shared human dignity." We also have another statement from Akhil Bilgrami, who is a professor of philosophy from Columbia University, and he says, "The death of Stan Swamy is a tragic blow to the cause of elementary justice for tribals, for Dalits, and for the poor and working people of India. It is time to subject the injustices and illegalities perpetrated by the present government against all of Indian civil society to trial by an international tribunal investigating human rights violations in our country." Thank you.
Yes, thank you very much. Anything else, Latika, from INSAF?
Yes, there is one more message, please. Thank you. This is from Solifen, Switzerland. "It is with great sadness that we have learned that Father Stan Swamy has passed away. Mixed in with the sadness is a sense of outrage that Father Stan Swamy had had to spend the last few months in prison and had not been released on bail despite his deteriorating health. He was falsely accused along with 15 other human rights activists for supporting Adivasi communities, demanding their rights. We express our sincere condolences and our solidarity." So sorry, and thank you so much for allowing us to share our messages in this moment.
Thank you very much, both for the messages from INSAF and from the other messages you have received from the other people. It means definitely a lot to us, the Jesuits in India, and all the colleagues and companions of Father Stan Swamy. I'm inviting next Ashish Aha from Delhi, who would like to share a minute of his recollection of Father Stan Swamy. Ashish Aha, I have unmuted you.
Thank you, Father Cedric. I just want to have a personal reflection of Father Stan. I had met him twice during my PhD fieldwork, and he had given me a lot of insights into the Adivasi languishing in jail. And today, when he is no longer with us, I just want to say that Father Stan has transcended his own body and has become more than, he has become an idea for all of us. And I think that it is up to us to carry forward his work, and we should not fail in that duty. So just with that, I just want to say Johar to him. and his memory, his life will always be with us wherever we go. Thank you so much.
I just want to know whether I cannot find you, Gautam Modi from the New Trade Union Initiative. Are you in, and under what name? If not, since Brunel is ready from the Tata Institute of Social Science, I will invite Brunel D'Souza to speak. Brunel.
Yeah, I didn't know Stan personally, but I have been deeply inspired by his life and witness. And I think his death, his pain and suffering, and those of every innocent Indian who is incarcerated on false and fabricated charges or is not able to get justice from the system, their pain and suffering will not go in vain. It is our responsibility as citizens to preserve our democracy and to ensure that it is vibrant and responsive to the weakest and the most vulnerable. And Stan, my promise to you today is that I will do everything in my power at a personal level and professionally and wherever I am to carry on your legacy. Thank you. I'm a proud Indian and I'm a proud Christian today.
Thank you, Brunel. Is Mr. Gautam Modi still there? Can I ask Professor A. Marks, the chairman of the NCHRO, Professor Marks, are you in? Yes, is that Professor Marks?
No.
Others kindly mute yourselves. Professor Marks, are you in? Okay, shall we go to the next speaker, Sadiq Qureshi?
Prayer service for fathers.
Sadiq Qureshi, will the others unmute yourselves?
He was flooded with him, huh?
Say, please please mute yourselves. Mr. Sadiq Qureshi from the Movement Against UAPA and Other Repressive Laws. Are you in? Kindly identify yourself. Okay, shall I go on to Vrinda Grover? Vrinda, are you in? We will keep this open just now, since there were some other names who had said that they would be coming. Gautam Modi, so that's why we said no to many others. Professor A. Marks, Sadiq Qureshi, are you there? Vrinda, are you here? Can you, under what name? Just
She's Advocate Vrinda.
Okay, she's Advocate. Oh, okay. Sorry. I was looking for V and G. I cannot see Advocate Vrinda.
Cedric, in case if they are getting delayed, maybe they must have gone for wash or whatever it is.
Yes.
Can I ask the family people to speak? Lindsay, you can unmute yourself. Lazar and Sheba, please unmute yourself and speak if you are there. These are, one is brother of Stan and the relatives of Stan. Sheba, Lazar and Lindsay.
Yes, Father.
Yes, please go.
So this is Sheba here. Stan Tata is my mom's uncle and so my grandfather. And as a family, it pains us a lot, and we're not able to bear this, that he's no more with us. And we as grandkids, we have grown up hearing his ideologies. And he is coming from such a small village from Tiruchi, but his vision has been so great wherever he has gone. He has done such great things for everyone, for the needy. And he was never scared, so brave and that's because that was his calling, and he knew that he is right. Whatever he has done, that's the correct thing which is to be done. And he used to hardly visit his village, like once in 3-4 years. And when asked, he used to say that Adivasi people are my family. So such was his dedication and love for his people. And although he is no more physically amongst us, but he will live eternally amongst us. And I would really thank fathers and all the others who took care of him till the last minute, who supported him and fought for him. And we cannot take this loss that he's no more with us. Thank you. Next, my father, Mr. Lazar, would like to speak.
Thank you, Father. I am Lazar. Father stands brothers. Father, when we heard the news that Father is added too much. We have our eyes, tears were rolling out. Not adjust to that news. However, later we found that it is the failure of someone or other that led to the death of our beloved father, Stan. So we have a lot of things to speak about him. He is good advisor to us. He was, we were with him in Ranchi. He was giving a lot of advice. He was telling a lot about the poor Adivasis, how they were cheated, how they were exploited, how the different authorities were suppressing them. So when we heard about all this, then we came to understand that the problem, the situations of the poor people in the country, the poor are always suppressed. So when we were also then started to think about these people. He has written a lot of books on the Adivasis, their life, their culture, and their pathetic conditions. He has learned the Adivasi languages also. He used to speak or write in that languages also. He is leading a simple life, having very few clothes, very simple life. And all the time he was thinking about the Adivasis, their problems, their conditions. He lived with them. He can say that he is also another Adivasi. He lived with them. He learned their problems by living together with them. He ate the food, what they ate. In this way, he has learned a lot of things. Whenever there were suppressions and depressions to the people, Adivasis, he started to advise them, help them legally, as far as possible, like giving good advice. He followed the path of peace. He followed the path of good life to the people. However, last he has faced the situation by living for the people, helping for the people.
Lazar, make it short.
Okay, Father. So we deeply mourn and we thank all the people who have supported him, who were with his views and support to live, dedicated to live for the purpose. Thank you very much, Father. Thank you all.
Thank you. Thank you. Is Lindsay there?
Yes, Father. Yes,
Yeah, please
Father.
go ahead, Lindsay.
So thank you, Father Joe and Joe Xavier and all the others who are hosting this gathering. Our family is still in shock and unable to digest that Tata is no more. He didn't deserve this ending for sure. He always wanted to be with his people in Ranchi during his last days. The fact that none of us are able to join even his funeral is even saddening. So a few memories about Tata. Even when he used to visit us, his thoughts were like always with his people. He used to always call them as his first love, and family comes only after the Adivasi people. That is his people for him. For a person who was like so true to what he believed, this is definitely not the right ending. I remember always Tata asks us, what is the purpose of your life? You people are just leading a normal so-called usual life where you study, go to a job, get married, having kids and raise them, and then you die. Like, what is the real purpose? I know no one can even like stand close to him who found the real purpose of his life and he lived accordingly. So in 2019, we actually got to spend a lot of time with him because he stayed with us for more than a month, which he usually doesn't do. And for me, only those memories are repeatedly running in my head. And most of our family get-togethers happened when Tata visited us. He loves to meet everyone at one place and he spends a lot of time with us. He updates us about his work and non-stop talks about his Adivasi people. So Tata was a true warrior, and our family will miss him dearly. We miss you, Tata. Thank you, Tata.
Thank you, Lindsay. As we are proceeding, I just want to make an announcement and pass on to Cedric Prakash. I hear the body was brought for postmortem from Taloja. The authorities have not still reached yet. So it is likely the postmortem will be happening tomorrow morning, which means the Eucharist that I announced at 12 o'clock is likely to be postponed. We are contemplating to be at 4 o'clock. We will send you the same invitation. Please join us. That will be live telecast, same as the Eucharist. It is likely to be at 4 o'clock, not at 12 o'clock. And I see now number of people are waiting. There's Irfan engineer. I don't know whether Lotika has spoken. Chandran Gada is there. Please, Cedric, please take over from here. Family people have finished.
Okay, Karen Rajkumar has asked to speak. I'm just unmuting. Are you on your name, Sharon?
Yes, Father Cedric, and thank you.
Yes, okay, good.
There are myriad emotions that I'm going through. Sadness, of course, but also anger and rage. And his passing should never go in vain. And we should work as one collective against injustice. And Father Stan will live on in every single person who stands up for justice, every single initiative for the vulnerable, the marginalized, and the defenseless. He will never be forgotten. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Sharon. Can I ask Advocate Irfan Engineer from Bombay and Director of the Center for Study of Secularism? Can I ask you, Irfan Engineer?
Thank you, Father Cedric Prakash. I'm really saddened today with the news. I had just
You have to be a little louder.
I had just posted a message of his words from the jail, and 2 hours later, I get to hear that Father Stan Swamy is no more with us. He was an inspiration. I won't be speaking long. I didn't know him personally. I knew him through his work. He was an inspiration. I know one thing. There's blood on the hands of this regime. This regime is what has murdered and killed Father Stan Swamy, the inhumanity of all. But partly we also could not, partly we are to blame ourselves also, that we could not raise our voice strong enough to get Stan Swamy out of the jail and also other 16 co-accused out of the jail. I'll just recite a line of a poem. I don't remember who the poet is, but it is very relevant. There's blood on the hands of the regime and NIA and UAPA and all this. We have to bury these draconian laws, and that will be the tribute to Father Stan Swamy. ये खून के धब्बे मिटेंगे कितनी बरसातों के बाद.
Thank you, Irfan. From the moment many of us heard that Father Stan was no more, this morning when we woke, Joe Xavier sent us a kind glimmer of hope that this morning his parameters are better. And there were hundreds and thousands of people who never prayed told me they were praying. People who never went to any mandir or mosque or church said they were praying. All were praying that he would recover from this and get that bail that he so desperately looked for. And in the early afternoon when he got the news, it was basically, as was already said, we were shattered. Unbelievable. And if you go to social media, there are hundreds and thousands of messages. The TV channels are highlighting his work, playing his video before he was incarcerated, of October 2020. It's all mainstream media. Many eminent people have been invited from across the board to share their views. So now is the time for us from civil society, men and women of goodwill across the board, to say with one unequivocal voice that UAPA must be revoked unconditionally. All those incarcerated under the Bhima Koregaon conspiracy case need to be released unconditionally now. Some of them have suffered there for more than 3 years. And above all those who have been incarcerated under these draconian UAP and sedition laws need to be freed. We are a democracy, and we have to prove that we will not allow those, who are trying to destroy democracy, to curb freedom of speech and expression and the rights of the Adivasis, the Dalits, the excluded, the poor and the marginalized. Who's next? Is Stani Tekekara already in from Gudalur? He wanted to say a few words.
Yes,
Henry,
he's inside.
Yeah, Stani.
Yeah. Good evening, everybody. This is, I share Father Stan's name. I'm also Stan Tekekara. And I first heard about Adivasis when Cedric and I were working as full-timers for the ICAF. And it was during that year that I decided I wanted to work with the Adivasis. And at the ripe old age of 21, I happened to meet Father Stan in Bangalore at ISI when somebody told me he is in Bihar in Lupungutu school. And I was going to ask him how I could get to Bihar because I wanted to work with tribals there. And that time in my ignorance, I thought tribals were only in that part of the country. I didn't know there were tribals in South India also. And Stan then asked me why, with my background, I wanted to go to this remote place. And when I told him, he said, I'm living in a village in Baraibir, Tipusai Hamlet, Baraibir. Will you come and live there and work with the young people? Because I need a young person because I'm going away. That's how at the ripe old age of 21, as an idealist, wanting to do something for the Adivasi cause, I landed up in Bihar with Father Stan, what was then Bihar, now Jharkhand. And I didn't have a clue of what we had to do. And for 4 years, Father Stan and I shared a hut, a small 2-room hut, 1 kitchen and 1 bedroom. And in those 4 years, he was my guide, my mentor. And the person who taught me what it meant to commit your life. So it was because of him and his living example, his simplicity, his humility. These are the 2 hallmarks of this man. I have never come across a man who was more humble than him. And I know if he was alive today and could see all of us here, he will be the most embarrassed man. That was his simplicity and humility. And it is because of him and other stalwarts like Rob Curry, who also struggled with us in Bihar in those days, Xavier Dias, who's still there, and many others, Sister Pilar, a lot of stalwarts, all of us together, worked together in Chaibasa in Bihar. And then Father Claude, who mentored my wife, Mari, and me, and encouraged us to go back to working with Adivasis. And that is when in 1984, we came to Bangalore with our 1-year-old child and expecting our 2nd child and started life here with the Adivasis, and we have been here since. Father Stan and I lost touch in some ways, and yet there was a sense of never having lost touch. The few times we met every now and then, It was like as if time had not passed in between. His smile was the same. His gentleness was the same. His humility was the same. And his commitment was the same. And if we are who we are today, and if we are doing what we are doing today, it is because of the likes of Father Stan. I never thought about my name, but today I wear my name with pride that I share my name with this great man. Thank you. Thank you, Cedric.
Yeah, thank you, Stan, for that very emotional tribute, because we have been so close to each other. We lived together in those ICUP days when actually Stan inspired us, mentored us, guided, directed, and I joined the Jesuits like him. You went and identified himself with the Adivasis like him. Stan kind of brought the best of what it means to be a citizen, a human being, a Jesuit, and a man of Christ in today's world. There is no doubt about that. Can I ask Admiral Ramdas and Loli Ramdas? I've just seen your tribute. You are friends of all of us. Will you unmute and speak? Because Admiral Ramdas was the chief of the naval staff. Loli Ramdas has been, and both of them have been very much part of civil society movement. And I think we'll be very happy if you all can share a few words. I know it's not easy when you're so far away. Are you there? Loli Ramdas, Admiral Ramdas? Okay, is anybody who have been listed to speak?
Father Cedric.
Yes, Loli
Hi.
and Admiral Ramdas are here. Please.
I'm so sorry. Ramu is not here at this moment.
Okay, doesn't matter.
Our lines are suddenly giving a lot of trouble, which is why I made that message and text. But truly, I feel that this has been a kind of a really a crossroads, a historic moment. As I have written, I think that it's up to each one of us now to deal with our grief, but then to make sure that we turn this into a moment of triumph and to realize all the various struggles and dreams and visions that people like Stan, all the others who are still behind bars, and the thousands of others who are unnamed and who we don't even know about, who have been suffering. I think that is got to be our new mission. We have to come together, and quite honestly, we need time to process, we need time to deal with our grief, our shock, and our anger, and turn it into a positive, combined, collective, strong energy going forward. And I know that Ramu feels very much the same with me. It's been tough for him as somebody who is a former serviceman, who then becomes somebody who is not exactly, shall we say, honored or approved of for many of the pathways that he has chosen to take. But I think we need more and more of us to speak out and to have the courage to do so. Thank you for giving us this opportunity.
Thank you, Loli, for the tribute on your behalf and on the behalf of Admiral Ramdas. Yes, I think, as you say, we need to come together, and maybe death can gives us new life.
Absolutely.
Solidarity, and take a stand for every single injustice which is taking place in our nation today.
Absolutely. Yep.
There are many other beautiful tributes that have been put. George Fernandez, the president of the Malayali Catholic Association of Ahmedabad, has put in a tribute on chat. There are many, but anybody who would like to speak, we still have a few minutes left for civil society, and anybody who has been confirmed as a speaker, please, there are at least 3 or 4 of them who have not yet spoken. Advocate Vrinda Grover, are you there?
She's on the TV program now.
Okay, okay, sorry. And what about the others? Mr. Modi? Yeah, I'm using Mr. Modi. Sadiq Qureshi from the Movement Against UAP and Other Repressive Laws. Professor A. Marks from Chairman of the NCHRO. Sadiq Qureshi. Yes, and of course, Gautam Modi from the New Trade Union Initiative. If you're there or anybody else would like to share a tribute, are most welcome to do so. Because
Can I speak?
Yes, please do.
Yeah. Hi, everyone. Can you hear me?
Yes. Identify yourself, please.
Yeah, I am Kurtuluş Başdemir, an international human rights lawyer from Turkey.
Thank you for coming, for joining in.
Yeah, you're most welcome. And I saw the news on the social media, and I am very sad to hear that one of the prominent human rights defender in India has passed away today. And I would like to express my condolence and deepest solidarity with Indian people. So I have been representing all the journalists and human rights defenders and the authors across the world before the United Nations human rights bodies as a pro bono human rights lawyer. So I think there is a huge responsibility of the Indian government in that situation. So I am ready and willing to provide a legal assistance if the family of Father Stan thinks to take their cases to United Nations, and I am here and I am with you. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you very much, sir, for your very kind offer. Okay, we sincerely appreciate that. And I'm sure our legal team, headed by Father Joe Xavier, Mihir Desai, and there are people like Advocate Henry Tipain and others, and who are here, who will get back in touch with you. Kindly post your email on the chat box since you have joined in.
I will be very happy if they can keep in touch with me, and then I will be very happy.
Okay, but if you post your email or your coordinates, you would be very happy.
I am writing right now. Okay.
Yes, please do, and one of us will take note of it.
Thank you.
I think Mahadevan wants to.
Yeah, my name is R. Mahadevan, advocate from Hyderabad. I had been very closely associated with Father Stan Swamy for the past 5 years. I was dealing that Kunti PS case of sedition.
Okay.
PS Kunti case. I was engaged, and every time I used to go there, though the dates were being given, I used to be with him. I'm so inspired with him. For 3-4 days, I used to stay at Bagaicha only. And even in the present case, there is absolutely nothing against Father Stan Swamy to incriminate in this case. His place has been raided 3 times. They did not find anything. And finally, they wanted to throw him along with the others into the prison. And except one letter in the entire charge sheet, there is only one letter written by one SG to one SS. There is no date, there is no sign, absolutely, it is not even admissible piece of evidence. And they say that SS is Stan Swamy, SG is Surendra Gadling. This is how they link it. And it is a fabricated document. It doesn't contain when the email was received, the date and time. We all know that email contains every detail, even the IP address it will have. Here there was nothing, and simply that fabricated mail copy was kept, and then he is lifted and thrown into the jail in spite of stiff opposition in the entire Jharkhand area for his arrest. The ACP Shivaji Pawar of Maharashtra Pune Police, he was very much insisting to arrest him. Thrice he came to arrest. He went back. 4th time he simply lifted and they took him to airport, and we all condemned it very badly, sir. Even along with him, like Varavarrao also. The letters which they show, that which are exchanged between Father Stan Swamy and Varavarrao and Cuddling, they show nothing. There is no date, there is no time, there is no place, there is no IP address.
Good.
Some BB.
Yeah. Advocate Mahadevan.
Yes, sir.
Don't mind. Thank you very much for your message. And we are only talking about tribute just now. To
I express my deep condolence, sir.
Member of Parliament, Mr. Vincent Palla, would like to say a few words. Mr. Vincent Palla.
Thank you, Prakash ji. And I have followed the case very seriously and with the fathers of Jesuit. So my family and I, on behalf of the people of Meghalaya, I express my deep condolence to the Jesuit family, friends, and the family of Father Stan. So we pray that his soul will always be there in peace. I also would like to express that I think we should take up the cases. What Father Stan Swamy wants, that all those people who have been imprisoned in jail should also be released. So if we can work together along with the team which are already been there, then we can see that if we can get them released, that is the wish of Father Stan Swamy. Thank you, sir. Thank you for giving me a chance. And I'm sure that we'll join tomorrow also. Please let us know. Thank you.
Yes. Thank you, Mr. Vincent Palaji. We have received a message from Cardinal Oswald Gracious, the Archbishop of Bombay and the chairman of the Catholic Bishops' Conference of India. In his message, he says, "We are deeply saddened at the passing away of Father Stan Swamy. We give thanks to God for Father Stan's life and commitment to the poor indigenous people and their struggles. We are happy that Father Stan received the best medical attention at Holy Family Hospital, Bandra, and passed away with dignity. Father Stan's arrest was very painful. Under the Indian criminal law, one is innocent until proved guilty. Father Stan's case did not even come up for hearing. We were eagerly waiting for the case to be taken up and the truth to come out. Father Stan worked tirelessly for the underprivileged and downtrodden, giving them a sense of dignity and upliftment. I witnessed his dedication to the exploited tribals. This work had its own challenges, but Father Stan worked single-mindedly for the poor. I do hope that truth will come out soon and his name will be cleared of all the criminal conspiracy. We pray that God reward him for his good work. May his soul rest in peace. Signed, Oswald Cardinal Gracious, the Archbishop of Bombay and the President of the Catholic Bishops' Conference of India." We have maybe a couple of minutes more. And those who are not speaking, kindly mute yourself. Because, yeah. And soon Mary Lawler will address exactly.
I'm an advocate from Tamil Nadu.
Yes.
I've been watching closely the happenings of Stan Swamy. Very much saddened to note that there is, instead of justice delivering system, it is a justice failing system. So we have to do something with the collective capacity, working together. It's justice failing system. We must work together to see there is a justice delivering system. May his soul rest in peace. Thank you.
Good. Thank you very much. Will everybody mute themselves except the speaker? This Narita Sharma, kindly mute yourself. The one with the pink blog.
Cedric, this is Gladstone here.
Yeah, Gladstone Xavier, a professor from Loyola College, Chennai.
Just two things in the 1 minute. Father Stan was a good friend and inspiration. I had the good fortune of being the driver when he was in Chennai. What he did to us was a very deep impact on all those he actually touched. So when I asked him about the first raid, what happened, he told me, what did they find? I asked him, what did they find? Oh, they found some old CDs with some old songs, and they found a hard disk. And in the hard disk also there were old Tamil songs. which he was so fond of. And in our discussions every year with Father Manu, Father Stan, and Sister Claire, and a group of others, we enjoyed our evenings and spent a lot of reflection time together. In fact, one of the main reasons why we came to human rights to work in academics was Father Stan. So we are really deeply touched and we're really shocked by the way he was treated. And I think we need to continue the fight, and we want to express our solidarity for the fight from Florina and from me as well. Thank you.
Good. Thanks, Professor Gladstone Xavier. Thanks, Florina, and for your beautiful tribute. We have just about 1 minute more, and there are messages coming from all over the world. Nirmal Pereira, Jesuit from Sri Lanka, says, "May Father Stan inspire all of us." There are several beautiful messages on the chat box. We are about to conclude this part. For me, I'm one of those who have been quite shattered at the death of Father Stan. But I believe very, very sincerely that he's going to live in the hearts and lives of all of us gathered here, of all his Adivasi sisters and brothers, of all the downtrodden, marginalized, excluded, of those who have had no voice in the country. So at the end of this very, very personal sharing by so many from different walks of life, from civil society and individuals, I want to say that we need to come together as a people's movement. Stan has said in a way, by his death, enough is enough. We have to tell the powers that are that we will not take it anymore. We want the UAPA to be repealed immediately and unconditionally. We want all those like Father Stan, the 15 others incarcerated in the Bhima Koregaon conspiracy case to be released unconditionally and immediately. And we want all those, very especially the poor and marginalized. Stan was fighting for 3,000 of the Adivasis who are there, languishing in jail. We want the UAPA, the sedition laws, and all the anti-people, anti-constitutional laws to be repealed immediately. Thank you very much. I hand you over to Joe Xavier and then on to Henry Tefane. God bless each one of you, and may Stan live always in our hearts and in our lives and in the movement ahead.
Thank you, Cedric, for that very powerful. For that very powerful message and for steering the last session. Friends, I had told you all that Father Stan had left a will, and some of us were privileged to be party to that will. But he had one person whom he placed full trust in. And I told Joe, I told his colleague, Father Solomon, please ensure that the UN Special Rapporteur on Human Rights Defenders is aware of all that I have undergone. And we did it. And from the day we had approached her, she had responded not only to his case, but to the case of many defenders in India, on almost all the defenders in the Bhima Koregaon case. Mary Lawler, the present UN Special Rapporteur on Human Rights Defenders, is with us this evening. She had a lecture for the last 3 hours and assured us that she will enter in 1 minute, exactly at 9 o'clock. Hello? Basically. Therefore, it is important that she is with us, because she conveys to us that not only she, but she along with all the special procedures and the United Nations stand with human rights defenders like Father Stan. And while she is here, and while she is in our midst, may we appeal to her that she and other special procedures take this death, this killing in judicial custody of a human rights defender arising out of vengeance of the state very seriously, and call for the immediate release and house custody of all Bhima Koregaon and other so-called Delhi riots, UAPA case under trial prisoners across the country, including the state of Tamil Nadu. We have them in all states. We have people charged in all states. And that is what Stan was also concerned about. When he spoke on the 28th, that is exactly what he said. Not only me, but all others. He could never speak about himself. He had his entire comrades in Baikula prison as well as Taloja jail before him. May I thank Mary for having entered. Mary, you are here. Thank you very much for being with us.
Yes, I'm here.
Yes. Thank you very much for accepting to be with us. I knew you wanted to be with us, but I knew there was a conflicting engagement that you had already accepted. But thank you very much, because you are the last speaker of this evening. And we were waiting, all of us are waiting, and many thousands waiting on YouTube to listen to what you have to say and how you will take this killing that has taken place in judicial custody forward. Thank you, Mary.
Thank you all very much for having me here today.
We can't hear you. There's some audio problem.
I can hear her,
Yes.
but Mary, put the mic closer to you.
Yes, we can hear.
We can hear.
Perfect.
Mary, continue, please.
Thank you all very, very much for inviting me to be with you today. And I'm so sorry that we're here in these circumstances. I'm very sad at this devastating news. Talking about the death of someone who dedicated his life to peacefully defending human rights is always hard, and harder still, given what has happened to Father Stan recently. I repeatedly raised his case with the authorities and asked that he be given adequate medical attention. I've known about his work for a long time, and I know he wasn't a terrorist, despite what the authorities accused him of. I am quite sure that over the last couple of hours you have spoken about his work, and many of you knew him and his work better than I did. But I do know that these smears against people like Father Stan are being used in India, as you said, Henry, and in so many countries as an excuse to put human rights defenders in prison for a very long time. I'll be bringing out a report on this inhuman practice of charging human rights defenders with terrorism to jail them in a few months from now. Some, like Father Stan, die in custody, serving long sentences or waiting to be sentenced. We know that those working on Indigenous people's rights are among those defenders at greatest risk of being targeted. Father Stan's arrest, his jailing, and his death in custody are stains on the reputation of the Indian authorities, and they will last forever. And I will be following up again with them. I personally will think of Father Stan, as a wise guide. I never met him personally, but I didn't have to. As Mary Robinson said in a meeting years and years ago, human rights defenders make imaginative connections, and people working in human rights make imaginative connections with those they haven't met or those they haven't seen in order to try and, I suppose, improve their situation. And I certainly made an imaginative connection with Father Stan, and I looked at a lot of what he had said online, and I also listened to his video on the Jesuit website. So we will all remember him today for his perseverance, his example to us all, his dedication to human rights, and his enthusiasm. I think that's what I really liked also, his enthusiasm, his persistent enthusiasm, and his sense of, what came across to me anyway, a kind of his sense of hope that this was the right thing to do, regardless of how it turned out, and his ability to continue despite his failing health and his great age. And that has been a huge lesson to me. And I want to leave you with a very beautiful poem, which an Irish poet and philosopher wrote, John O'Donoghue, about grief. And I hope that the good memories that you all have of him will carry you through this dark time. And I offer you this poem in the hope that it will bring you some comfort. When you lose someone you love, your life becomes strange. The ground beneath you gets fragile. Your thoughts make your eyes unsure. And some dead echo drags your voice down, where words have no confidence. Your heart has grown heavy with loss. And though this loss has wounded others too, no one knows what has been taken from you. When the silence of absence deepens, flickers of guilt kindle regret for all that was left unsaid or undone. There are days when you wake up happy, again inside the fullness of life, until the moments break and you are thrown back onto the black tide of loss. Days when you have your heart back, you are able to function well, until in the middle of work or encounter, suddenly with no warning, you are ambushed by grief. It becomes hard to trust yourself. All you can depend on now is that sorrow will remain faithful to itself. More than you, it knows its way. And you will find the right time to pull and pull the rope of grief until that coiled hill of tears has reduced to its last drop. Gradually, you will learn acquaintance with the inevitable form of your departed. And when the work of grief is done, the wound of loss will heal, and you will have learned to wean your eyes from that gap in the air and be able to enter the heart in your soul where your loved one has awaited your return all the time. Thank you.
Henry, you have to unmute.
Thank you, Cedric. Thank you, Mary, for being with us, for those words of assurance, but particularly that poem at the end. The entire human rights community in the country looks forward to you. It is 10 years since your predecessor had visited India and submitted her report on the situation of human rights defenders. 10 years later, the situation is worse. All of us, Cedric, who is here, and many others like us gathered here, collectively would like to use this occasion when we mourn Stan's death. But we are proud of his life, want to ensure that we don't have many more to lose in this country. We need you to come. We need you to physically come. And we need you continuously to be with the larger community of people. Many faces, many names, which are not known to us even, but who are living in similar conditions to which Stan was living. And it is on behalf of all of them today that while we mourn someone whom we know, we equally bring within our umbrella many others whom we don't know, but whose causes were common and shared by Stan. Thank you, Mary, for being with us. We are very sure we are strengthened by your presence, and we will always continue to experience that solidarity that you and the team of special procedures shows on all of us here. Thank you very much for being here, and for all your colleagues who ensured that you came on the dot. On the dot. It was really on the dot. I know you have another appointment, and thank you very, very much for having been with us.
Yeah,
Cedric.
before Joe Xavier concludes, I just want to say one thing. There is one picture of somebody has done some search. It is of some Baburam in some jail who looks kind of like Father Stan in shackles on some bed in some prison. That is not Father Stan. It is going viral. So I think we should put the exact pictures of Father Stan even on social media, whoever is on social media here. So thanks once again. I hand it over to Father Joe Xavier to do the concluding.
Joe Xavier is entrusted that last responsibility.
Oh, sorry, yes, because you had to go on somebody else. Sorry,
Yeah.
Xavier. Sorry, Henry. I forgot about that.
No problem. Thank you, Cedric, for leading the session. May I invite the Provincial of Jamshedpur for the Jesuit Provincial of Jamshedpur, Father Jerry, to deliver the vote of thanks. And after the vote of thanks will be a song, and we will end this meeting with a song and remind all of you that the funeral service is now scheduled at 4 p.m. tomorrow afternoon.
Thank you, Henry. Dear friends, it is a sad moment for all of us. Not only the Jesuits in Jamshedpur province, and the Jesuits in central India, in Jharkhand, with whom Stan lived and worked, and Jesuits all over the world. The friends of the Jesuits, collaborators, Stan's Adivasi friends for whom he worked till the end of his life, is a sad moment. The passing away of Stan has created a huge void, but I'm sure that he has inspired many Jesuits and others to take his legacy forward. At this moment, I'm really filled with gratitude. Literally, I can't thank you all enough, because we have received support from all over the world, irrespective of what religion, what caste, creed we profess. We've received support from all over the world. And on behalf of the Jesuits in Jamshedpur province and in India and the Society of Jesus, I would like to thank Father Joe Xavier, who accompanied Stan Swamy till the end of his life, and the teamwork that collaborated with him. I'm really grateful. Also, the team of lawyers headed by Mir Desai and others really did a wonderful job. The Holy Family Hospital, the medical team there, took care of Stan in these last days. Father Arun and Fraser Mascarenas and the team of Jesuits in Mumbai, who really worked hard to take care of his basic needs in Mumbai there while he was in the jail. Thank you very much. The steering the sessions today's the condolence meeting, and Joe himself, Joe Xavier, Henry, Cedric Fracas, and at the end we had the Mary Lawler, the UN Special Rapporteur. Thank you very much for all your support and joining us this meeting. I'm sure Stan's spirit will live on as a living memory for justice and reconciliation. The Society of Jesus, the Jesuits at this moment recommit themselves to take forward the legacy of Father Stan in his mission of justice and reconciliation. I'm sure the caged bird
sings in heaven right now. And we'll see you tomorrow for the Holy Eucharist, the funeral service in St. Peter's Church, Bandra. And we pray that Stan's soul may rest in peace. And thank you, one and all.
Thank you, Father. I am going to have the last word because there was one name all of us forgot, but that name has to be remembered, and that is Senior Advocate Nithya Ramakrishnan from Delhi, who was with us at different stages of Stan's case. We always hoped that this case would not have to go to the Supreme Court, but while he had his warrants out of the Patalgadi cases, she came there to Ranchi to argue, and throughout his interrogation, she was one who told me, please allow him. I've never seen him, but from what you say, he will speak only the truth. And let us have one occasion at least where the NIA faces the truth and leaves the person whom they were interrogation. That was a strength she had in somebody whom she had never seen. We remember her very specially these days. This day, she called just a minute ago, and I said, Nithya needs to be publicly thanked for what she was to Stan. A Stan whom she had never seen, but a Stan whom she was able to imagine. Thank you, Nithya. Thank you on all the Jesuits who are here, and the lawyers team, and the larger team of civil society friends who stand with you. Thank you, Nithya. Sorry, Father.
Thank you. Thank you.
We'll end with a song.
Yes.
I'm not a silent spectator, but I'm part of it, part of the game, and ready to pay the price, whatever be it.
যদি তোর ডাক শুনে কেউ না আসে তবে একলা চলো রে যদি তোর ডাক শুনে কেউ না আসে তবে একলা চলো রে একলা চলো একলা চলো একলা চলো একলা চলো রে যদি তোর ডাক শুনে কেউ না আসে তবে একলা চলো রে যদি তোর ডাক শুনে কেউ না আসে তবে একলা চলো রে
What is happening to me is not something unique happening to me alone. It's a broader process that is taking place all over the country. We are all aware how prominent intellectuals, lawyers, writers, poets, activists, student leaders, they are all put into jail just because they have expressed their dissent or raised questions about the ruling powers of India.
যদি কেউ কথা না কয় ওরে ওরে ও ভাগা কেউ কথা না কয় যদি সবাই থাকে মুখ ফিরায় সবাই করে ভয় যদি সবাই থাকে মুখ ফিরায় সবাই করে ভয় তবে পরাণ খুলে ও তুই মুখ ফুটে তোর মনের কথা একলা বলো রে যদি তোর ডাক শুনে কেউ না আসে তবে একলা চলো রে যদি তোর ডাক শুনে কেউ না আসে
So we are part of the process. As that I'm in a way I'm happy to be part of this process because I'm not a silent spectator, but I'm part of it, part of the game, and ready to pay the price, whatever be it.
যদি সবাই ফিরে যায় ওরে ওরে ও ভাগা সবাই ফিরে যায় যদি গহন পথে যাবার কালে কেউ ফিরে না যায় যদি গহন পথে যাবার কালে কেউ ফিরে না যায় তবে পথের কাঁটা রক্ত মাখা চরণ তলে একলা দলরে যদি তোর ডাক শুনে কেউ না আসে তবে একলা চলো রে যদি তোর ডাক শুনে কেউ না আসে তবে একলা চলো রে
Thank you.
Thank you, Henry, and everybody else.
Thank you, Father Jerry.
Thank you very much.
Stan Tekekara, that was very moving.
I think it was beautiful. We had hundreds of people from all walks of life. Yeah, and from everywhere. So, yeah, from all. And there were so many beautiful messages. John Messi and Digital Jesuits, I hope you'll be able to preserve these messages. Send the posters, send Father Jerry Coutinho, and so on, the many tributes that have come in. On social media, there are any amount of messages, thousands of messages that have come. Beautiful messages. People have already decided that Stan is a saint. That's all.
Thank you,
So
Cedric. Thank you,
Cedric.
Father Xavier. Thank you, everybody. Henry,
Thank you,
all of
everybody.
you. This is
And thanks to our friend from Turkey.
Yeah, hi. And thank you very much.
Good.
See. Here. Come. Didn't finish here.